I'm on
You're
mute.
on the mute.
All right, sorry about that. So I moved to China in 2015, and I started working in marketing and communications at a really like small boutique marketing agency. So we were helping Western brands adjust their digital marketing strategy, doing websites, Baidu SEO, WeChat, Weibo, all that fun stuff. And in the meantime, I also got involved with several with one startup community and another nonprofit community. So some of you might have heard about FitFam. We started in Shanghai in early 2015. And so I took over their social media marketing at that time. And then I helped another community, IPWS, which is the International Professional Women's Society, located in Shanghai chapter. So, doing their marketing and communications on the side as well. And after a couple of years working at the smaller agency, I moved to Ogilvy, which is a large international marketing agency. So I was doing a lot of corporate communications there. And while still working with a lot of these, smaller startup communities on the side, and just realized, like I'm sure a lot of you have probably realized, working, for yourself or kind of starting something has a lot of excitement. And so I left the corporate world last year and started my own company out of Shanghai, focusing on social media marketing. So we primarily help small to medium-sized brands with their social media strategy and executing that, on a variety of channels: WeChat, Weibo, Xiaohongshu, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. And I've really over the past few years focused a lot on WeChat. I think it's a really interesting channel. Obviously, we all know it here, but it's constantly changing, constantly evolving, and it's a really tricky channel, so it always keeps us on our toes. But yeah, that's a little bit in a nutshell what I do and kind of what my focus is.
All right, thank you. Thank you for this descriptive introduction. Um, as far as we touched upon WeChat, let's talk about WeChat marketing.
Sure.
So how good is this platform, and should be foreign brands considering it as an option for marketing their products in China?
Yeah, so obviously, here we've all heard of WeChat. We use it every day for messaging and everything. We know that there's, over 1 billion users on WeChat. So it seems like a really attractive platform to be on. We know that a lot of brands are on there, and we hear a lot of these success stories, but it's actually a very, very difficult channel. So I have a lot of conversations with people and who work for brands about really setting the expectations. So WeChat is a very closed ecosystem. So unlike something as Instagram or Facebook, it's really difficult to get your content discovered on it. So a lot of people think like, I'm going to open up an official account, we're going to start publishing content, and people are going to read it and they're going to buy from it. We're going to get a ton of followers. This is really setting your expectations in the wrong direction. And just within the past few years, WeChat has changed so much from when it was first started, from when brands could first be on the platform. Just to give you kind of an idea of how difficult it is for brands on the platform today. So the average WeChat article across all official accounts. So official accounts refer to the account that a brand can have and send you content. The average reads that an official account gets is about 1,400 reads. This is really, really tiny when you think about how there are over 1 billion users on WeChat. And this number has decreased by 24% year on year. So between 2018 and 2019, the number of reads that an article is getting dropped by 24%. So it's gotten infinitely harder to get your content read. The average WeChat user only follows about 20 official accounts, and there are over 20 million official brand accounts. So it's really difficult to get your article read, it's even more difficult to get somebody to follow your account. And you probably, know this because when you get content from a brand that you follow, it pops up in your chat messages, right alongside all your friends, messages, messages from work. You get this almost advertisement from a brand. So unlike, something like Instagram or Facebook, brands are really able to access you at a very kind of sacred spot, right in your messaging system. So if they're sending too much content, if that content isn't relevant for you, people just aren't going to follow. So it's very, very difficult in terms of, acquiring followers. But that's not to say that it's not an important channel. So WeChat is still the channel that people indicate they want to hear from brands most on. So what this means is that WeChat is not going to be your main driver of discovery. You could certainly, have people discover your brand and purchase from you on WeChat, but this is not going to be what you want to focus on to really kind of get your name out there. Think of it more as the channel that you're going to engage really your most loyal customers or your most kind of engaged fans through this channel. So you want to be building out content and you want to be building out pathways to communicate with these people to provide them with a really high level of value.
But we use WeChat only for the end of the funnel of the whole customer journey, right? Like engage
Yeah,
with the customers, retain them, use the CRM.
exactly.
Okay. And you also mentioned that on WeChat you have an opportunity to reach out to your clients, right? In the most intimate place. You implied that we do this with the help of WeChat service accounts, right? Which are different from official accounts, right?
So there's two types of official accounts. There's a service account and a subscription account. Now, what's really interesting is that I believe it was 2 years ago now, they kind of changed things around with subscription accounts so that they get even less visibility. Now, the main difference between a service account and a subscription account, a service account, you can send 4 messages per month, whereas a subscription account, you can send 1 message every single day. However, all subscription accounts go into one folder, whereas service accounts, you can actually, someone receives a notification in their chat messages from you. It's as if, you're friends with that brand and they just sent you a message. So there's a lot more visibility. Now, I think it's really interesting because when people look at, okay, which type of account should I get? And we look at the numbers over the past few years, more people are unfollowing service accounts. So there's, kind of more drop-offs happening there. Less people are unfollowing subscription accounts, but that's because they're actually not discovering them. They're not getting the notification that they're pushing out content anyways. So they're not so annoying, but the content isn't getting read. So I usually, for the most part, advise brands, unless you are some type of like media news outlet, or you're doing a ton of events all the time, to go with a service account because it'll be just much more on a personal level. You'll get your content read. I would say that, if you have a subscription account, you're going to have to work a lot harder on getting your content shared into groups and shared on moments to get that visibility, because otherwise people just aren't going to check that you actually have new content published.
All right. So, but what if I go with the service account? How do I promote it? How do I get people to read it? How do I get them to follow me?
Yes,
What would
that's the golden question, right? So if you're just starting out, let's say, you launched your company, you've registered your official account, it's a service account, and you open it and like you have your best friends and your team members following the account. So you've got like 10 people following your account. The first thing that you would do is build out your menu. So think of your WeChat service account menu as your website. So you're going to build out, like contact us tabs or directing people to your e-commerce shop, really populating that with a lot of content so that when people do kind of land on your account, there's a lot for them to discover. The next step is, we advise a lot of brands to start building out WeChat groups. So if you've been kind of listening to China marketing trends within the past year, you might have heard about kind of this term like private traffic. Yeah, exactly. And so that's what these WeChat groups are. So in the West, think about when you have, when we talk about digital marketing in the West, we tell people you need to build up an email list because you own that. You have direct access to those people. There's not really a great equivalent in China because people don't use email as often. But what a lot of brands have been doing is building out these WeChat groups. So they're owned, by the brand, and they have a community manager, or the founders are managing it, and they're inviting people in, and they're providing a lot of value in these WeChat groups. So they're starting discussions around, topics in the industry. They're sending videos, they're sending coupons. There's a ton of things that you can do to engage people in these WeChat groups. But it's also where they're able to send content once articles are published. So what we're finding with a lot of our accounts is that once they publish an article, it'll have maybe like 1/3 of the opens will come from people who already follow the account. Once they share that article in group chats, it gets another 2/3 of open. So there's a huge chunk of reads that are coming from group chats just because people are so much more engaged. Group chats are kind of like a place for you to go get curated contents. I'm sure everybody in here is in like 5 million WeChat groups, and each one of those groups has a very specific purpose, right? You're in that group and you maybe pay attention to what's going on because you want to learn about a certain topic. You trust that WeChat group to provide you with good information about that subject. So when an article gets shared in there, you're likely going to find it rather than when you see it directly come in from the brand. So once you can set up your WeChat account, start setting up a group and just get people to keep inviting people into this group, sharing it this way. There's also things that you can do to encourage people to share the article on their moments, things like this, or send it to friends. Another interesting thing that we found in the past year is top stories. So you might notice at the very end of a WeChat article, there's the wow button, and actually they just added likes to it, which I'll talk about in a second, but I think that might kind of shake things up a little bit. But there's the wow button, and if you wow something, that article goes into top stories. So if we're WeChat friends, you can see that if you go to look at your top stories, you can see that I've wowed this article, even if you're not following it. So it was kind of like the first way that WeChat allowed content to be discovered outside of someone's own network or outside of their network. And wows, I've talked to a lot of Chinese colleagues about this, and it's almost like a trusted source. So because I know that everybody I'm contacts with can see what I've been reading, I'm only going to wow something, if it's really high quality, if there's really some benefit to it. So everything that ends up in that list is kind of like verified. So we have a lot of clients who they had customers come into them and they specifically said, I found you because I saw somebody in my contact list wowed your article. Now, I think it's important to touch on that WeChat just within the past week introduced the like button back in. So, I'm not sure how much that's going to kind of shake things up, but if you can, still encourage people to hit that wow button. Likes are also great. It kind of tells you how many people are engaged, but through top stories is another great way that you can get your content discovered. In addition to that, using other social media channels, and this will kind of bring us into another topic, but using other social media channels to grow awareness for your brand. And then people will come back into WeChat and search for you. So, if you see a brand on Xiaohongshu or Douyin and, you really like it, you're interested about it, chances are people are going to search for that within WeChat to get more information, to kind of look things up or to follow it. So make sure that you're, easily discoverable on that.
Yeah, good. So and the global search works for the service accounts and the official accounts, right?
Yeah, so you'll be able to search in WeChat for, if you type in the name of the
Sorry.
brand and you have a service account or a subscription account, it'll both come up under that official accounts tab.
Yeah, so yeah, the good thing about with the wow button is that it brings the brand the exposure and makes it more verified, as you say. But now what I also noticed on WeChat is that actually now after they reintroduced the like button, more people opt for the like button.
Exactly,
Not
because it's anonymous, right? So now I can like something and no one's going to really know that I like it. But again, then it's not going to get your brand kind of discovered by other people. So I think there might be, it's kind of a little bit of a disadvantage for brands in a way. Of course, it's nice to know how many people are actually engaged with your article and like making it all the way to the end. But wows were such a great way to kind of get some exposure. So we'll see how that goes.
and regarding the groups, I also find this way very effective. Um, and I think that the most like renowned example in China as of now is Perfect Diary, right? They had like millions of these groups, and
Yeah.
then the KOL Li Jiaqi that was selling lipsticks. So at some point, yeah, if I have one group, I can manage it easily. I have two groups, maybe yes, I will somehow get through. But what if I grow into a bigger brand and I have around 5, 10 groups? What would be the tools that I could use in order to manage all of them?
Yeah, so I believe there are, I'm not sure how well they work because we don't use them for a lot of our brands, but there are some like bot services that you can use to start managing this. But a lot of times there's another really great case study about an activewear brand, a Chinese activewear brand called Maya Active. And they have done a really great job growing all these WeChat groups as well. And they're actually all like team members are in all of those. Even the founder of the brand is in those WeChat groups and she'll be responding to messages sometimes. So I think, actually having, splitting your team up or having community managers, that can be really effective. Another thing that you can try is if you have these key customers that you can identify, like almost brand representatives or brand ambassadors can also help you, in these groups.
All right, and what is the usual practice for the brands? Do they have one community manager per group, or can one community manager manage more groups?
Yeah, you can have one community, as how much time and resources that one person has can be managing all different groups. You can be segmenting your groups by different interests. Let's say, you're running like a health food brand and you've got people interested in the fitness aspect, you've got people interested in more of just like losing weight, so you can have kind of different segments of those and you could have different people running those or the same person running them. It really depends on what is going to work best for your brand.
Okay, cool. Also, one thing about WeChat groups, I've recently noticed I got a friend in China, a Chinese girl, and she's selling this cosmetics, Xunar and Xia's, and so she uses this interesting thing in her groups. She puts two links in the announcement box. Like the links are leading to, one of them is leading to Xiaohongshu, but
Mhm.
it's not the Xiaohongshu, it's the mini app, as I realized. So what would be other implications for that to drive traffic to somewhere else to make sales?
So yeah, it depends on where you're doing your e-commerce sales. Now like brands can open up and do e-commerce in Xiaohongshu as well. Another great reason to kind of drive traffic to your Xiaohongshu account, people can leave reviews. It's way more kind of a discoverable platform than WeChat. So if you're really wanting to kind of build up your reviews on that platform and get people talking about you, that's another way that you can kind of do it. But yeah, it just depends like where you are like hosting your e-commerce or where you want people to buy from. that you would kind of send them out to different platforms.
What do you think about brands buying fake comments on Xiaohongshu?
Fake comments and fake followers, I feel very strongly that basically the strength of your business is equal to the strength of your followers. So I would much rather see an account with 100 real, very engaged followers than like an account with 5,000 followers. Because it's going to mean nothing for your account in the end. Those 5,000 followers are not going to buy from you, which is pretty much your main mission. Now, when it comes to comments on Xiaohongshu, I think on one level, like if you are, a bigger brand or if you have a lot of budget, unfortunately, it's sad to say, like so many people do it that it's almost at this point like part of playing the game. So you need to, some of them have bot followers, they have bot engagement, just because that kind of gets more real engagement. So, there is a part of it where, it is kind of necessary for some of these brands. I would never recommend that to most of the brands that I work with as a small brand. If you're just starting out, I think it's better to, grow these very original, very dedicated, real fans first. And then, if you kind of want to start snowballing things, if you get a bigger budget, I don't want to say go do it because it's not a good thing, but people do it. It's a practice in China, unfortunately, and I can see why it happens.
Yeah, it's like fake it till you make it approach, right? But
Yeah,
at some point, yeah, I'm also very like I want to be a very genuine marketer. I don't want to become this person who is buying a lot of fake accounts, fake numbers. But for example, when I search on Instagram and I just come across any account and I see that they have like 10K or 15K, even without checking the engagement rate, it gives me this sense of credibility. I think, oh, okay. But only then when I check the engagement rate, I see, they are fake.
exactly.
So maybe at some point, yeah, it's the way you play. Maybe it's good for some of the brands, not for everyone.
Exactly.
All right. I think some of the people were very much interested in how do you create the posts for WeChat official account? Like, are there any tools to design your posts in a beautiful way?
Yes. So I've talked about this before a little bit, but I think, actually taking the time to format your post is really important. And I know that it takes a lot of time and effort, but, think about it as anything else. People's attention span is so short. So if if they click to open your post already, that's like so awesome. That's already a huge step. But if your content is it's like in super tiny font or super massive font, or there's elements all over the place and it's really hard to read your post, somebody is going to jump out of that. Like, you've just wasted such a hard-earned opportunity. So formatting your post, I think that's a huge step in actually getting your content read. And for some types of accounts, their formatting is why people keep coming back. So if you have really good formatting, you're going to hold on to people. You're going to create really loyal followers because they know that your content is really great to read, it's easy to digest, or it's really inspiring, really beautiful. So this is a huge part of of running a successful WeChat account. Now, there are lots of different third-party platforms that you can use to edit your posts. There's 135. There's Xiaomi, which I think is by far, in my opinion, the best one to use. I know other people like other platforms better, but for me, Xiaomi, I think, is the easiest interface. Unfortunately, they're all in Chinese, but you don't speak Chinese, you know, you could open it in Google browser and click the translate, or, you know, it's relatively easy to kind of figure out what is what, and then you just kind of memorize things after a while. But Show Me basically has like all these different elements and designs, and you can spend hours and hours and hours upon hours in this platform, you know, looking for exactly what you want. But you can kind of change things. You can change the color. You can, you know, adjust the size of things. You can really kind of take an element and make it your own, and then you're just copying and pasting that over into a WeChat account. Some of the most common mistakes that I see people do when they start using Show Me is that, number one, they're using way too many different things, way too many different elements, so that it actually becomes even harder for somebody to read the post. The other mistake is that, you know, they're clearly not, or maybe they are, but they just, you know, have no clue about design, but they're not sending the post preview on your phone. So, you know, even though the post might look great in the WeChat backend, it's going to come out looking differently on your phone. So always, always, always send it to your phone. And if you're able to, send it to multiple different phones, because if you have an iPhone or a Huawei, it's going to look different on all those different phones. So make sure that you're sending it, you know, to as many different phones as possible, and checking, you know, how it comes out. Some elements just don't end up copying and pasting over very well. So it's important to really check that and make sure that it works.
Yeah, so for example, but how do I, with the help of what tool, which tool can I create this beautiful, consistent background, for example? Because I heard like people saying that it's not that easy to do that on Xiaomi. And you want to bring this consistency of design, you know?
Exactly. So it's definitely not a super easy platform to use, but what you're able to do is you can actually, when you use something on Show Me, you can save it. So you can save all these different elements. So like for all the brands that we work with, we've saved all their different backgrounds or everything that we use from them, and then we continue to use them again. You know, I wouldn't say that you have to have the exact same look and feel every time. It really depends on your brand and what you're, you know, doing, how you're using your WeChat account. But it should look, you know, it should always look like it came from the same place. But yeah, on Show Me, you're able to kind of save all of your templates that you've used in the past so that you can use them again. You can just, you know, with one click, pop it over, and you have the exact same background that you used for a previous post. I wouldn't ever recommend like taking a WeChat post in the back end and copying all of that and pasting it into a new WeChat post. 9 times out of 10, the elements are going to get all screwed up, and it's going to take like 20 times longer. So saving everything in the Show Me platform, and then copying that into the WeChat backend.
All right, I'm not sure, I've never checked it, but for example, if I'm looking for something specific, how to do something in Photoshop or Illustrator, I always go onto YouTube, because this is one platform that we will go to get the reference from. Is there any place where I could get the same information on Xiaomi, how to work in Xiaomi? Like, does someone create content on that?
Yeah, some in Chinese, but for the most part, like there's a lot of like help tabs in Show Me. So if you're not sure how to do something, you can usually kind of find a little explanation in there. There are some really cool WeChat accounts that actually, you know, talk about some of the elements that are used in Show Me and kind of introduce some new things. But for the most part, you just learn by trying and testing things out, because, you know, for your brand, for everybody's brand, it's going to be a little bit different. So you're going to kind of have to adjust things based on, you know, your colors and based on your styles. So it really takes a lot of testing out. What I like to do and how I learned to use it is just following tons and tons of official accounts. So I think I follow like at this point over 1,000 official accounts, and just, you know, always checking like, okay, what are they using for the design? And chances are, you know, you'll be able to find it in the back end and show me.
Okay, great. I think I also got another question. So on Twitter, on Facebook, on Telegram, for example, in the chat, we have polls. We have beautiful emojis, but in WeChat, the emojis are antediluvian. We don't have polls. Like if you want to use polls, you got to use this mini program and only then send it into the group chat. So in some of the aspects, WeChat seems to be lagging behind. While they do have an opportunity to make that right, why aren't they making it right? Like, for example, at converting the audio to the text message, they were really good. Like they were like the first ones in the market. But why are they so slow with others? Like because the emojis, they're terrible, for example.
It does seem like a very kind of at this point like archaic user experience when you look at WeChat. They are really slow moving. So if you know listen to any of Alan Zhang, he's like the founder, the father of WeChat. If you listen to his talks, you know, every year they do like a WeChat open class, but they kind of go over their vision for the year and talk about new things they're working on. If you go back in and listen to some of those, you know, he's so intentional about how they've, you know, made WeChat and the things that they put forward. They're not trying to make it this really sleek platform. You know, that's not really one of their goals, nor has it ever been. I think they're a lot more focused on, you know, like the stickiness of it, like, you know, creating this tool that you use that's, you know, just part of your everyday life, which in a lot of ways they have succeeded. But, you know, I think now that they're facing a lot deeper competition from some of these other platforms, you know, they are starting to try things out a little bit faster. We were talking before, you know, about the hashtag thing. You can tell, you know, and with channels and with, you know, live streaming, you can tell that now they're trying a little bit harder to kind of play catch up. But, you know, it's important to remember that WeChat didn't start out as a social media platform like these other channels did. WeChat started out as a messaging platform. So for it to be, it was never a content first platform. So it's never going to be, you know, better than Douyin with their algorithm for, you know, for content. It's really supposed to be for something else. So it's, you know, a little bit unfair to them to try and make that comparison. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like it does look outdated, but I just don't think that that's their focus, or that's you know what they're so concerned about.
Yeah, but recently they're moving towards this content first platform more and more with this introduction of the channels, for example. So they're
Yeah,
trying to make people stick more on the platform because they are losing daily active users year on year as of now.
yeah.
So you just mentioned live streams. So
Yeah.
if I'm a startup and I want to do live streams, like should I go for them or not, and why should I go for them?
So I think a lot of people get hung up on live streaming because, you know, in the past it's been, okay, you need to collaborate with this really famous host and you need to have everything set up. But what actually COVID really brought a lot of brands is the realization is that you can be extremely successful doing live streaming, you know, with your sales staff or, you know, with your founder, just setting things up. Nobody knows the product better than you and your staff, the people who work with it every day. And when you talk about, you know, e-commerce live streaming, people are really looking for experts in the product. So last year I actually had a really awesome opportunity with Alibaba to go visit some famous live streamers, and they were live streaming pearls. So, you know, they lived kind of outside of Shanghai, and they're selling pearls. Like, you know, you open up the clam and there's the pearl inside. And they, they were making, one of them was making 1 million RMB in revenue a day. So that's some pretty successful live streaming there. And they were able to do that. Like, he credited all his success because his family had been doing that for generations. He really, really knew his stuff. He was such an expert on this. So people are looking, when they're looking at these e-commerce live streams to buy something, it's not necessarily all about the celebrity kind of factor of it or the flair of it, the entertainment of it. Of course, you still need to be entertaining to grab people's attention, but they're looking for, people who can really answer all their questions about this live stream. Live streaming really opens up a huge opportunity for a lot of products that previously had a hard time selling online. These high ticket items or things that might be a little bit unusual, because normally online, like, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you don't know if it's real or high quality or not. So you're going to have a lot of barriers to purchasing. But with live streaming, you can ask all of these questions. You can see it on somebody, or you can see somebody using it. So the expertise is a huge factor. So if you are able to, have yourself, if you're the sole founder, if you're able to have your teammates do live streaming with this product, it can be really seriously effective. And back to what we were talking about before, really, I think a lot of people get focused on the numbers in China, like they want thousands and thousands of viewers, or they think it's not going to be successful if they don't have these large numbers, because China is such a huge market. But it really only takes, like several hundred people. It really only takes a few really loyal fans to, get some amazing sales and to start driving awareness. So, by starting out small, starting out with just your team, and proving your expertise, I think you can really be effective on live streaming. And there's so many different platforms nowadays to kind of do live streaming on. We had Taobao live streaming was kind of one of the original ones. Now you have like Kuaishou, you have Bilibili, which is another kind of short video platform. You now have WeChat with the ability to do live streaming through mini programs for some of these brands. So it's really about, figuring out which platform is best for you. Where is your audience kind of gathering? What is your industry? What makes the most sense for you? And testing different things out.
On average, what would be the platform that a brand would go for? Let's say a B2C and B2B comparison. Which platform would they choose for their live streams?
B2B, I don't really have so many great examples of people doing live streaming. I'm on if you have a great following already on WeChat and you have the ability to do WeChat live streaming, I think that can be really great, because a lot more focus is on the brand. So people already follow you, they're already connected to you, and you have that gateway to them. Depending on what industry that you are in for B2C, things like Bilibili or Kuaishou. I think Kuaishou has been known to have a lot higher conversion rate. So that can be a good platform, but it kind of depends on, what the price range of your product is, who your target audience is. And, I think in China, things are so rapidly changing and evolving, and consumers are so sophisticated that it doesn't hurt to test things out on different platforms and to kind of figure out what works best for you. There's not going to be one catch-all solution. I'm a firm believer in, really experimenting and seeing what works for you.
Yeah, I heard that for low-priced goods, it's better to go for Douyin because it brings more conversions. But for high-priced goods, it's better to stay on WeChat. I mean, in terms of sales, not live stream.
Sure.
Just sales.
Yeah, just sales. Yeah, it depends. Okay, if you're really wanting to drive sales with this, or you're trying to get more awareness, it kind of depends on what you're going for. But, that's why I mentioned, do experiment, because what works for you this month, something could change in the next month. So yeah, it's important to kind of have that mindset.
So in order to do a live stream on WeChat, should I have the mini program to do that?
Yeah, so now with mini programs, what you can do is you can actually create your own live streaming mini program. And yeah, you basically kind of build it out the way that you want it. And, you know, you'd have to get kind of the permission in the back end as well. But it's not super complicated.
So I don't get to do that with just having a service account or official account, right? I gotta have a mini program.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
have to have like certain, you have to hit certain parameters in order to be able to access this mini program. So you need to have like a certain number of followers. You have to have a certain number of daily views on, or not daily, but views on, you know, on your articles, things like this. So it's not available for every single brand. Not
Okay. Is that available for foreign brands to do live streams?
So yeah, foreign brands can do live streams. It just depends on what, if you've opened a certain mini program or a certain official account yet. So if you know, got your Chinese business license somehow and you've opened an official account through that and you meet all of the parameters, for right now, you can then build the mini program for that.
Okay. Thank you. That was a bit overwhelming. uh, Now, three predictions on the digital marketing ecosystem landscape in China. Let's take one prediction maybe for the next 3 years, then 5 years, and 10 years.
You know, to be completely honest, I think China changes so quickly that you know, in the next 10 years, I really, you know, I could not tell you what's going to happen in the next 10 years. Things move so fast here. But, you know, if you're trying to kind of, you know, think about the future and think about where you should be, like we talked about with live streaming, I think it's going to become video to sell your product is going to become even more important. And I think there's, you know, going to be a shift away from, you know, using live streaming as it was in the past as this kind of huge entertainment factor, and really coming down to the brands or, you know, these thought leaders, these KOLs who have all the expertise to sell your product. So don't get kind of held up by the fact that, you know, maybe you don't have access to someone with a huge following already. You know, really try to use video in any way that you can to sell your product, because consumers are going to want so much information before they purchase the product, that, you know, video is the best way that we can do that for now. And I think, you know, this is true for China. And I think as we've seen just in the past 3 months with Instagram and Facebook starting to kind of build out, almost like we have in China, these mini programs, social media and e-commerce, you know, are really going to become one and the same. So if you're not doing social media, you know, you're not going to be able to push on e-commerce. And I think it goes, you know, both ways. So those are the things that I would really hone in on, at least for the next few years. But, you know, like we said, and like I'm certain everybody here is aware, China moves incredibly fast. You know, mini programs were really only came on the scene starting in 2018 is when they really kind of took off. And that was, you know, like 2 years ago. So think about how fast and how far we've come. 3 years ago or 4 years ago, you would have had no idea that mini programs would take over like this. So it's just so, you know, something can come on the scene so quickly here in China that I think, you know, you have to be very agile. You have to be willing to experiment with it.
All right, thank you, Olivia. So, and as we are closing to the end of the event, I'm gonna go for the lightning round, where you're not allowed to think for more than 2 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be naming like two options, and you have to go for one without thinking quickly.
Okay.
If you don't know either of them, just go with the one that you know.
Okay. Okay.
Someone has copied something. Okay. China or USA?
China.
Okay, that was a hard one. Shanghai or Oregon?
I would say Shanghai.
Wow. that that's very loyal to Shanghai. Hot pot or pizza?
Ooh, pizza.
Oh, Gary Vaynerchuk or Neil Patel?
Gary V.
Seth Godin or Philip Kotler?
Seth.
Social Media Examiner or Growth Tribe?
Social Media Examiner.
China Marketing Podcast or the Marketing Book Podcast?
China Marketing Podcast.
Haha, nice. Okay. Now, guys, if you have any questions, I already saw some questions in the group chat. Feel free to maybe write them in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask the questions one by one if you want to. So that's hello, my name is Merat. I'm just gonna go with the first one and read it out to you. I'm not sure if you know the exact answer for that because it touches the numbers. So I have a question. What are the parameters, requirements that qualify a brand or a startup to register and create a mini program?
So yeah, first off, you're going to need there's a lot of agencies that can help you. If you don't have a business in China, there's definitely ways around it. But you're going to need to either work with a partner or you're going to have a business license in China because the mini program has to be approved by Tencent. So they have to make sure that everything is, okay by their standards. You can find all of the documents that you'll need, super detailed, on WeChat Wiki. That's like Wikipedia, wechatwiki.com. I can actually send it in the group here. It's a super helpful resource that you can search for a lot of, let's see.
There is a question from Yana, but Yana, I think we've already covered it. Some mistakes, and yeah, Olivia, you keep on finding the thing. I'll just then what are the mistakes? Suggest small company entered. I think Olivia mentioned that you have to decide whether you want to go with this subscription account or with the service account and start building up your groups, fill them up with the content, and that's what you do. But you shouldn't focus on WeChat as the main driver for traffic. You gotta be getting the traffic from somewhere else. So WeChat should be the end funnel for your startup and brand. But it's a good platform to start from, I think.
And I see Yana's question as well, like what would you suggest to a small company who just entered the market and want to use WeChat? Another great strategy that you can use is collaborating with other brands or other accounts on WeChat. So we do this a lot, if you're a small brand. Brand collaborations are really, really awesome. I highly recommend doing them. And China is a great place for it because like anything goes. There are some super bizarre brand collaborations that happen in China and they turn out really, really well. Like food brands with makeup brands, really anything that you can think of. But it's a great way to kind of tap in to, a similar target audience and kind of get some awareness out there. So I would recommend doing that as well.
Also, offline events used to work very well in China.
Yes. Yeah. That as well too. And something really interesting, if you're able to do, as a small brand, there's lots of service providers out there who do like WeChat CRM that can be super expensive. But there's actually some with more limited functions that are quite affordable. So if you are able to do like offline events, or maybe, even if you're just sending products out to people, or maybe you're doing a brand collaboration with somebody, you could generate different QR codes. And then you can have, if somebody scans that QR code and follows your account, you can be able to track where they came in from. You can tag that person, and then you can send them a segmented message afterwards. So remember when we talked about, how as a brand, like, you're entering someone's very sacred space when you're sending them content. So maybe, you have a few different kind of target audiences, but when you send a WeChat message, you're sending it to all your followers. So you end up like losing some followers every time because that content isn't relevant. By using these systems and tagging people in the back end, you can send content specifically to those different audience segments so that it's way more personalized. Everybody's getting content that's relevant to them, and you're not, risking losing so many followers each time you push out a post.
Wow, I didn't know about that one. That's a good insight. Is it for official accounts and service accounts for both of them?
Yes, I believe if you have a verified account, a verified official account, you can use it. And it's like, I think maybe like 1,200 RMB a year. So it's a really low cost, and, pretty easy to set up. You can generate, as many different QR codes as you want. And yeah, it's a great option if you're doing, if you need to track, where people are coming in from, something like this. And it can also allow you to, so when someone first follows your account, you have kind of this 48-hour window where you can interact with them multiple times. So you can set up another message, 24 hours after they follow. And this can really kind of build, a better relationship with your new followers, provide them with something of value, things like that. So it's not so out of reach for a small brand to kind of have, really, really careful and well thought out processes here.
Another question, where can I see whether my post was shared as a top story?
So in the back end, if you go and you look at content analytics, you'll be able to see actually, if you click into that particular post, you'll be able to see where that was read. So you can look at, how many views came from moments on every day, how many views came from top stories, how many views came from people like sharing it in a group chat. So in the back end, you'll be able to see exactly where your reads are coming in from.
Okay. So is it possible to get the information on the live streaming requirements from WeChat Wiki as well?
Yes. Yeah, that's a super good place. I think they have published, or if they haven't yet, they're coming out with it. Was just talking to the guys the other day, but they, just search WeChat live streaming in there, and they have a lot of documents and a lot of detailed information on how to do that. So
Then we
it's
got mobile Loyola answered.
Yeah.
Another question, how many official accounts can each business license own?
So several years ago, I think it was like 22, and then they dropped it down to, I believe now it's at 5. You can have under your business registration name, and you have to renew them annually. It's 300 RMB. It should only take about a few days, and yeah, it's a pretty easy process.
In terms of back-end data and analytics, which platform is the best?
So, we talked about there's different service providers that you can kind of have I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with Hootsuite, but you can kind of get all your analytics in the back. WeChat has a back end where you're able to go through and see, for yourself, all this data. It's not as great as like a Hootsuite. It doesn't give you a super nice dashboard or anything. One of the best ones in China is Kwo, so that I'll type it in right now.
Oh, Kwo. Alex Duncan.
Yeah,
Alex Duncan.
Exactly. So they have an integration that you can plug in. It's a service that you purchase, and then their backend is amazing. It gives you all of the analytics. Everything is in English. They give you a really, really comprehensive view. They auto-generate reports. Like, it is, if yeah, if you can pay for it, and I don't think it's super, super expensive, but it is a chunk of money if you're a small brand. But, you know, just for the analytics part alone, it's a really easy snapshot of everything. You can hook it up to WeChat, Weibo. Now they have Douyin. And it's great. You can also like collaborate with team members on creating posts. So yeah, you can do a lot of stuff with it. I recommend if you have a lot of different people, kind of a bigger team working on your WeChat posts, it's a super great tool for that.
So, and is there an integration between Hootsuite and WeChat Analytics?
So Kwo and Hootsuite have an integration together. So you can actually use those two together.
Okay, I got it. I was just looking for some more affordable alternative to KO.
But I think there are some Chinese ones. I really only have used Kwo, and they're like the Hootsuite of China, basically.
Okay. Um, a question from Brian Drought, asking as a someone who is quite new to marketing, would you change the approach or the advice that you gave for service industries like education or travel in marketing on WeChat, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, for every industry, you know, there's going to be a similar overarching approach, but you know, for each different industry, it's going to be different how the content that you create, how you engage people. So for sure, you know, you have to kind of know. It sounds very cliche, but like know your target audience and what the purpose is. You know, what value can you provide for them? What problems are you solving for them?
What's the best platform for generating awareness? Oh, it's a good one. What's the best platform for generating awareness? Is it Weibo or something else like Douyin? Because as we said, WeChat should be the end funnel, right? So, but where do we get just traffic from to WeChat?
So it really depends. Weibo, there's every year, I think people, you know, when they do like their end of the year predictions, half the people say like Weibo is dead, and then half people say like Weibo is still alive, like it's so underrated. So there's really two different schools of thought on that. In my opinion, you know, Weibo is great if you are a huge brand and you can afford to work with, you know, celebrities or influencers or do paid advertising on there. Of course, it is a much more open platform than WeChat, so you can use, you know, it's easier to discover different content on there. But you know, it's going to be a little bit like Twitter, like it's very oversaturated, it's very much for like news and gossip and ads from a lot of brands. So it, you know, it comes with a grain of salt. Like it is better for discovery, but you know, don't expect like hundreds of thousands, don't expect really easy engagement on there. Depending on what industry you're in, you know, Xiaohongshu can be great for awareness, you know, publishing your own content, you know, working with smaller influencers, doing product seeding, things like this. Of course, Douyin, the TikTok of China, you know, that can also be another great platform for awareness. I think it kind of eludes a lot of brands because it is, the algorithm is so kind of sophisticated, so you can have success, you know, you can get 20,000 views one day and the next day only get 5. So it's a little bit more of an unpredictable channel, but you know, still, again, you're going to have an easier kind of discovery time than WeChat. So I wouldn't say that there's like one channel for everyone that you have to be on for awareness. It's really kind of more of like this omni-channel strategy where, you know, you're figuring out what kind of what few channels, you know, are going to bring you the most value. For a lot of small brands, you know, you don't have the resources and the time to be on every single platform. You don't have the resources to be producing a ton of video. Video can be really cumbersome to do. But you know, at least being on several different platforms and getting awareness this way. and driving people, back to WeChat.
Yeah, and my take is that in terms of organic reach, Weibo only gives you around 10%, while Douyin still gives you more than that. So Douyin should be a better option to opt for. And on Weibo, there is a lot of zombie accounts, and even like the big luxury brands, they do boost their posts by buying this fake reviews, comments, and likes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Alan Cho, regarding your question about the advertising pricing, it's a very big question. So you can hit me on WeChat, and I will send you a good article from Park Lu. They made a good investigation to that. Let's say I will share the article.
I know the article you're talking about, and it's super. It will do a much better job about it explaining than I think. But basically, looking at WeChat alone, if you want to do moments advertising on WeChat, I'm pretty sure it's at least like a 50,000 RMB buy-in, so it's a pretty hefty price. I think the return on investment, like it's better than some platforms for some industries. They've had some better case studies, but yeah, it does get really expensive to do paid advertising on these platforms.
Art market in Xiao. I think this is the last question, guys. How about art market in Xiaohongshu? Is that possible to develop? What is art market, like, for art products? Do you understand the question?
I'm not sure I understand the question fully.
Me neither. It was the direct Chinese translation, I believe. Oh, painting. Yeah, it's art products. So they want to say paintings on Xiaohongshu.
I mean, I think you can definitely do it. I don't have any specific examples of, painting accounts, but it's like any other channel. I think one thing that would be super cool if you are an artist or you're doing paintings all the time is to look into doing Douyin and like doing putting your camera on you while you're making the art and kind of doing like a time lapse that can develop some super awesome content. But yeah, whatever channel that you use, it's all about creating, really interesting content, and then, having the right e-commerce to back it up.
Oh, there's one more question, but actually I lied that would be the last question because I have my own question. Are you reading that one? Okay.
Yes, thanks. About search engines, right?
I think we touched upon it, the global search of WeChat for the keywords for the service accounts and the visual accounts.
Yeah. So, I think this is something that's really developing. And, a few years ago, again, this didn't really exist, but more and more, because when you think about it, you're in WeChat so often. So a lot of people have started searching for things within WeChat. I think just the other, maybe 3 weeks ago or so, to give you an idea of the power of WeChat search or how many people are searching for it, Jay Cho, super famous pop star, released his new song, Mojito. And, within one day, if you looked at the search volume of the word mojito on WeChat, it had over 2 million searches for just that one day. So there are a lot of people searching for things in WeChat. Now, comparing it to something like Google and for SEO, it's nowhere near that level. But I do think it's worth, investing thought into, okay, what keywords am I using in my title? What keywords am I using in my article? What keywords am I registering my mini program with? Because all of those, are going to matter. And there's a chance that, people are going to find you through WeChat search. I definitely wouldn't write it off as something that's not happening, because we know it is. We also use it to measure, what are some trending topics related to different industries, and then we develop content based on that, based on what people are searching for within WeChat. So it's a good way to kind of gauge, what trends are happening, and also, it can be a potential way for content discovery. And like we talked about, earlier with WeChat now introducing hashtags, I think, you know, we could see this play a much bigger role in more people searching for these keywords on WeChat. So it's, you know, don't compare it to Google, like don't put the same weight on it, but, you know, it is something to be aware of and cognizant of.
My personal question. I do know that there's quite a few users on Instagram and on YouTube from China, Chinese people. But have you ever looked into the numbers of Chinese users on Instagram and YouTube? Because I was trying to search for those numbers and I was not able to find them.
Yeah, I've never been able to find them either. It would be really great because I've read some reports that kind of allude to the fact that there is a growing number of Chinese on Instagram, because you think of, you know, a lot of all the Chinese students who went abroad or educated abroad. There's a ton of Chinese people who live outside of China and they're on Instagram. So it's it can be, you know, depending on your target audience, it can be another great channel to use to attract Chinese consumers. Like, it's not out of the realm to use.
Yeah, that's exactly why I asked this question, because I'm more familiar with these platforms rather than with the Chinese ones. Okay, I think on this note, we can end the session. And if you still have questions, please ask them in the group and I will try to address your questions later on.
Cool.
Olivia, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and any questions, I will type my WeChat ID into the group, and you can add me or add me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to answer any questions if I can.
Okay, let's give them some time to copy it and then I will end the session.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. It was super fun. Hopefully answer your questions, but yeah.
By the way, how hard it is to be aired on China Marketing Podcast. Looking forward to be there one day.
Just reach out to Lauren.
Yeah, but I gotta be like proficient enough to do that. It's gonna take another 2 years, I think. By the way, do you know Michael Norris?
Yeah.
How old is he? He seems to be very young, so experienced.
He does look very young, doesn't he? If we could all, you know, look as young as Michael and have that experience, that would be great.
Yeah,
I'm not sure his exact age, but yeah, no, he's a super knowledgeable person to follow, you know, especially if you are into, you know, a lot of things like tech and luxury. He's really, really knowledgeable on those subjects.
Yeah, I admire him. He's very knowledgeable. Wow.
Yeah.
Very energetic. All right, I think everyone has copied the ID name. Thank you once again, Olivia.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
Bye-bye. Talk to you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.